Hello, I'm Soren, and I'd like to welcome you to my new series where I discuss the price of victory. I take a look at recent winning and competitive tournament lists for Age of Sigmar, and I look at the approximate value in terms of money and in terms of hobby that it will cost to actually get into one of these armies. Now, in order to do so, I need to make some assumptions. The first one is that in order to determine an approximate relative value, I use the official Games Workshop website to find the retail price of all of their armies. I realize that if you're not too picky, you can pick up your models for less than retail prices at places like eBay and Facebook buy and sell groups, but I can only go with the variables that I can relate to nationwide or in some cases internationally. And Games Workshop will always sell these models for these particular prices at this time. There are no discounts. I cannot determine what your local store is going to discount an item. I cannot determine whether the estate sale down the street is going to have a good sale. But this gives me an idea, and it gives you an idea of the value, current value of these armies. My second assumption is that I did not assume that those watching are willing to do custom conversions for expensive models. I will, on the other hand, assume that you are willing to convert limited edition models that can no longer be found on the Games Workshop website. Things such as the Skaven Time Warlock Bombardier, which only came out in the Kyrian Empire's box set, which they do not sell on their website. For the hobby section, I've asked two local commission painters for an approximate amount of time that they base the price of a commission on. This assumes that you're somewhat proficient hobbyist and in a hurry. So as such, this is a minimum time invested expected for a tournament-ready force. It is not intended to be the definitive guide on how long a specific unit or army will take to build and paint. Now, with these assumptions in order, let's go to the first army list. The first army list that I have for you today is an army list for the Daughters of Khaine. This particular list got first place with a 5-0 record at the London GT in 2019. With Marathi, 2 Hag Queens, and a Slaughter Queen on a Cauldron of Blood as your leaders. A total of 40 Sisters of Slaughter, 30 Witch Elves, and 10 Canary Heartrenders. This list has several items that can be bundled into one bundle, mainly the characters, the Slaughter Queen on Cauldron of Blood and the Hag Queen. Unfortunately, Daughters of Khaine has an issue in which their Hag Queens can only be bought and with the Cauldron of Blood set. So in order to get a second Hag Queen, I'm going to assume that you have to buy a second Cauldron of Blood. Other than that, the Sisters of Slaughter and the Witch Elves at $60 per kit and requiring a total of 7 kits makes this a relatively expensive army. For the value in US dollars, this army runs through the Games Workshop website for $790. It's 470 Great British Pounds, 940 Canadian dollars, and $1,014 in Australian dollars. The expected hobby time for a model such as Marathi is in the range of 30 hours. As a larger model and one with a large number of pieces, I have asked my friends as commission painters how long they would charge, and 30 hours is the going rate. A large chariot such as the Cauldron of Blood also is a more involved piece, but they priced it at 16 hours for that completion. Most character models are between 5 and 8 hours. For the Hag Queens, they've estimated 5 hours. And a unit of 10 standard 25 millimeter infantry will generally take around 8 hours for a commissioned painter to paint. The Canary Hot Renders being a little bit of a more involved model, they estimated for a group of 5, it would take around 6 hours. So the hobby time expected for this particular army is 124 hours. For the most part, every serious tournament list that I have gotten a ranking for has been relatively close to the first list. In order to get a list with a more diverse set of units, I had to go with a list that I could not get the winning or losing record on. I do not know how high this ranked, but this list is from the Hero Phase Irish GT for 2019. Again, Marathi is a larger model, and the Blood Rack Shrine, it comes in the same kit as the Slaughter Queen on the Cauldron of Blood, and the Hag Queens being identical, but with the 30 Blood Sisters, this list differs enough that I felt I could use it. The Blood Sisters, again, for a unit of 5, my commissioned painter friends have said that the time taken would be roughly 6 hours for each 5-person unit. The total hobby time for this list is 129 hours. It is a more expensive list, with the US total being $865, the Great British total being 517.5 pounds, 1,035 Canadian dollars, and 1,231 Australian dollars rounds out the actual monetary value of this list. Recently, the Sydney Slaughter, a Australian Grand Tournament put on by the AOS coach himself, has come to light, and the lists have been announced. As of recording, the tournament results have not been announced, but I have chosen one list at random to present here today. Again, Marathi, the Slaughter Queen on Cauldron of Blood, and a Hag Queen are pretty close to identical as all the other 2,000 point lists, but this one also adds a Blood Rack Medusa, which makes it just a little bit less expensive in the hero department because you're not having to buy the second Cauldron of Blood. With a total of 40 normal elves, 20 witch elves, 20 Sisters of Slaughter. This list, it has fewer bodies than most of the other ones, but the points difference is made up with the Canary Heart Renders being 20 and 20 Blood Sisters. Now, for any of the endless spells, I have to assume that you will have to buy an entire kit in order to get one spell. So for the Malevolent Maelstrom, it comes in a single $75 kit, 45 Great British pounds, $90 Canadian, or $125 Australian, which makes this one of the more expensive single models in this. But remember, you do get the entire kit for all of the endless spells. So, this particular army is $900 American, $540 in Great Britain. I'm sorry, 540 pounds, 1,080 Canadian dollars, and 1,344 Australian dollars. The hobby time, the estimated hobby time for this particular army is 137 hours. Now, On average, for a 2,000 point army, the Daughters of Khaine will cost you roughly $827.50 American, just under 500 pounds in Great Britain, just under $1,000 Canadian, and a little bit more than $1,100 in Australia. The total hobby time estimated at 126 and a half hours. For the Army actually puts it under the average for the armies that I have collected information on. Unfortunately, it puts it over the monetary cost of a normal competitive army. A normal competitive army in America, as compiled by myself, out of a combined total, an average, of the top Daughters of Khaine lists: Fire Slayers, Disciples of Tzeentch, Idoneth Deepkin, Hedonites of Slaanesh, Flesh Eater Courts, Grand Host of Nagash, Skaven Tide, and Blades of Khorne. I have taken those armies and averaged the price. The average price for a competitive army in America is $760. In Great Britain, it's around 464 pounds. In Canada, it's roughly $921. And in Australia, it's a little over $1,173, which puts Daughters of Khaine a little bit pricier than that, but the hobby time is less. I want to thank you for joining me on this particular adventure. This is my first YouTube video. I will continue going on, at least for the armies that I have detailed in the Cost of a Competitive Army section. And I hope to see you again for my next video, which will be on the Disciples of Tzeentch.